From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Country music is big in Tennessee, but so is something else.
Collectively, we felt like we were stronger as a marketing group.
See what's being done to make beef big. A wild scene on one highway after a cattle truck is involved in a crash, as planting delays in the Midwest have the markets on edge.
So it looks like the corn acres will stay down and the soybean acres will stay up.
We're following the latest market moves right now on AgDay. Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Planting season is underway, but putting actual seed in the ground in the Midwest right now, well, that's another story. Rain, snow, and cooler temperatures have pushed many farmers' plans back, and those delays are continuing to push up prices. Checking the latest corn and soybean planting maps on agweb.com, and you can see where planting is really happening right now. For corn, Texas leading the way at 64% planted, but as you move up through the Midwest, it's much less, with Missouri at only 4%, and nothing recorded right now in the I states. Soybeans, it's much the same story, with the South again leading the way, Louisiana leading the way at 27%. Crop concerns already have traders on edge, adding fuel to the corn prices earlier this week, sending them up over the $8 per bushel mark, the highest price in nearly a decade, and they remained above $8 here at midweek.
It is early, but we've also kind of lost a little bit of that early planting window we've had. You know, we'd like to see it get in sooner than this if we're going to really see that happen. It's been cold and wet. It looks like it's going to continue to be cold and wet next week for much of the Midwest. So we don't really see that early planting is going to be a factor. That tells me that the acres are, hopefully we were going to pick up some acres if they would plant early in the corn, but that doesn't look like it's going to happen. So it looks like the corn acres will stay down and the soybean acres will stay up.
Yeah, that's why we've seen a series of contract highs here in December corn futures. So the planting intentions came in well below what was expected. Now you have these at least semi delays here in April. And so, you know, the market is starting to factor in the potential. And then you look out in the Western Corn Belt and we have drought, especially in the southwestern portion of the Corn Belt. And, you know, it really does bring into question whether we can get to that trend line number that USDA is going to put on it next month in its initial WASDE report for the 22-23 marketing year.
Too wet and cold in parts of the country, too dry and windy in others. Check out this radar image of just one of the wildfires burning in the southwestern part of the country. This is the Tunnel Fire. It has burned more than 16,000 acres near Flagstaff, Arizona. Another fire, the Crooks Fire near Prescott, is also burning, both driven by significant winds in that area. And the fire threat continues today for portions of the West. Meteorologist Matt Yurosavik joins us with the very latest. Matt.
Yeah, that's right, Clinton. We've got another day with elevated fire risks out there in the Southwest. And if we look at our map right here, we've got Albuquerque right in the middle of it. Again, this time it's kind of elevated all the way back toward Flagstaff and even close to Las Vegas. That includes almost the entire state of New Mexico, and even portions of Texas, Amarillo, and north of Lubbock also in that elevated fire danger for today. Now, just east of there, it's going to be the talk about the dry line and storms that could pop up along and ahead of that dry line. And you can see that right here, that orange line right through the middle of Texas. By the afternoon and evening, we'll start to see some of those storms fire up. Some of them could be strong to severe. And if we zoom in here, they go all the way down to southern Texas and up into southern parts of Kansas, where we could be seeing some of those stronger storms is really from Oklahoma and up into southern Kansas. By the time we get into the overnight hours, that dry line starts to fade and those storms will start to dissipate as well. There's that severe risk over the next couple of days right there in the same spot due to that dry line, and then an oncoming storm. A tornado threat and damaging winds will be the main threat there, along with large hail and heavy rains, and we'll keep tracking that right here on AgDay. And Mark Pettijohn doing his first day of planting in Solomon, Kansas. He says that's hail, not fertilizer there, as he gets underway. Talk about wild weather. I'll have more on your forecast coming up.
Happening right now, farmers in Ukraine are continuing to plant in the middle of a war zone. And one farmer there is giving us an update. Kees Hunzinga writing to Global Farmer Network saying that everyone is nervous about what the future holds because of the Russian invasion. He says despite the huge risks, they've decided to go into the fields, put seeds in the ground, and try to get to harvest. He writes that the challenge right now is to see how much they can reduce traditional inputs and still produce crops. He says at this point, he has decided to grow half of the normal acreage of sugar beets in order to try and spread the risk around. Keys adding that supplies of inputs will be unreliable as long as the war lasts. And then processing them takes a factory, adding that a single bomb could ruin everything. You can read more of his latest post on agweb.com. Concern about a global food crisis because of the war is growing. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen now calling on global finance leaders to step up in the face of growing food insecurity. Yellen sharing that message during a food security meeting between members of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. Now, early estimates say at least 10 million people in sub-Saharan Africa alone could be pushed into poverty due to surging food prices, adding that's on top of the near 800 million that were already suffering from chronic food insecurity before the war.
The war has made an already dire situation worse. Price and supply shocks are already materializing, adding to global inflationary pressures, creating risks to external balances, and undermining the recovery from the pandemic. I want to be clear. Russia's actions are responsible for this. But the United States is urgently working with our partners and allies to help mitigate the effects of Russia's reckless war on the world's most vulnerable.
Now, Yellen adds new investments in agriculture capacity and resilience, along with easing fertilizer shortages and supply chain disruptions, are needed. Quite a sight on busy I-80 in Illinois earlier this week after a cattle hauler was involved in a wreck. Now check it out. Crews had to close down the road near Joliet following the crash. The cattle hauler hit a semi and a car, which tore open the cattle hauler, and it had 33 animals inside. 16 were thrown onto the interstate. Police were forced to put 2 of the animals down due to injuries. Local farmers on horseback helped gather up the remaining herd that were running loose. State police say the driver of the cattle hauler was charged with driving under the influence of drugs. Police in Temple, Texas are asking for help in identifying 2 women who it's reported stole a whole lot of meat. The crime caught on camera. Police say the woman you see here reportedly stole all that meat from a HEB store. You can see an employee trying to stop it, documenting the alleged theft with her own camera. Police believe more than $2,000 worth of meat was taken. A slowish start to planting and dryness in Brazil continue to support markets. We'll have details next. And later, it's not the Smoky Mountains or country music leading ag sales in Tennessee. It's cattle, how farmers are working together to maximize returns in the country.
AgDay is brought to you by Germinator Closing Wheels. Germinator, it's not just any closing wheel. Reach your yield potential. Free shipping on all orders with coupon code AgDay.
Joining us today, we have Brian Bastine with Advanced Trading. Brian, as we talk about really where these markets are, we're starting to say things like historic and highest levels we've seen in years. What does that mean from a strategy standpoint as we try to turn our focus to planting and getting a crop in the ground?
These are historic prices at this point, Clinton. We're looking at the highest price ever, for example, for December corn futures at this time of year. And we're looking at the highest price ever for November soybean futures for this time of year. So really encourage your viewers to get control of their 21 bushels of corn and beans. And by that we mean establish some type of risk management floor for those bushels. The market is not encouraging producers to store at this point. There's a big inverse, about a 25-30 cent inverse in May to July soybean futures, and about a nickel inverse between May and July corn futures. So defend your balance sheet. That's the message we're sharing with producers. And there are a lot of different ways you can do that, Clinton. But the important thing is get control of these 2021 bushels so you can turn your attention entirely to 2022. And Clinton, it's not too early to think about 2023 either.
Yeah, Brian, talk to me a little bit about that in looking ahead here at 2022 and possibly to 2023. I mean, these prices are phenomenal. How aggressive should we be?
The important thing at this point, Clinton, with 2022, we'll start there, is to maintain flexibility. As your viewers know, we've got a very, very early start to the planting season here, as far as less than 10% of the crop in the ground. A lot of time yet, a lot of uncertainty. But as you said, these prices are attractive today. Provide yourself some flexibility in marketing. One option, in my opinion, to consider would be the purchase of a put option. It allows you to put a floor underneath the market, but it allows the market to run, if you will, or continue to rally to the upside. In other words, you've locked in a floor, but left the upside open if factors around the world, for example, if Ukraine is unable to plant as much as they usually do, whatever the case may be, it allows that upside to remain open. So I think flexibility would be the key word I'd share with your viewers at this point, Clinton, in terms of 2022. But definitely it's time to look at these prices and in my opinion, it's time to start to get control over 2022. And again, as I mentioned earlier, 2023, the same principle of flexibility, Clinton, would apply with 2023.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you for those insights, Brian. Sure appreciate you joining us. We'll be back with more AgDay coming up in just a minute.
To talk with Brian one-on-one, call Advanced Trading at 800-664-2314 or head online to advanced-trading.com.
Meteorologist Matt Yurosavik joining us here looking at the root zone moisture map. And Matt, as we look at this, it may not look like it's changing, but it is slowly changing.
Yeah, that's right. We had a large storm system bring a lot of snow and a lot of moisture to the northern plains, and that's really helped some of this map kind of improve, and we'll continue to see that over the next week or so. And that region where we did see some of those really improvements has been the northern plains. We're talking about portions of Minnesota into the Dakotas where we saw record snowfall and a lot of moisture, even into Montana and the northern Rockies, seeing some improvements up in there as well. And we're going to see more of that as we head through this week. More snow expected up here and more moisture also expected all the way through the west. So we'll start to see some of that out there. And then we've got even wetter conditions through parts of the Ohio Valley all the way down towards the Gulf Coast as things still stay abnormally dry in parts of the mid-Atlantic. So here's a look at the rainfall to come as we head over the next couple of days. Still a lot of that right there in the middle part of the country. And yeah, more snow for the northern Rockies there and the northern plains over into portions of the Great Lakes. And again, more of those showers and storms across the middle of the country. Not a lot going on in the southeast as well, but also more mountain snow back there in the Cascades. Take a look at that. We're talking about a lot of snow. We're really going to help that snowpack as we head deeper into this spring season. And more mountain snow across the Rockies and upper plains. We're talking about near Minot, North Dakota, where they already saw record snowfall, expecting more of that as we head through the weekend. So here's a look at the surface map. High pressure in the east, one system exiting, another one beginning to come on shore, and we've got this dry line right here. As we head through the evening, you'll see those storms pop up along and ahead of that dry line where we could be seeing some of that severe storm chances, especially in southern Kansas, Oklahoma, and in parts of Texas. Once that gets on out of here, though, most of the precipitation up to the north, and that's where it will remain until this system can come out of the Rockies and make its way up into the northern plains. Meanwhile, most of the country pretty quiet, except for a batch of rain moving across the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley. Very warm out ahead of these systems as well. We're talking about lows in the 60s, meaning very muggy air, but highs could be closer to 90 degrees all the way up through the middle part of the country, and that's because of this jet stream bringing in a lot of that warm air, meanwhile keeping it very active in the west. That's a look around the country. Now let's take a look at the weather where you live. Bradford, Pennsylvania, cloudy with showers, a high of 58 degrees. Altus, Oklahoma, strong storms possible late in the evening, a high of 94 degrees. And Pasco, Washington, morning showers, afternoon sunshine, a high of 62 degrees.
How big of a threat are plant-based meat alternatives to the livestock industry? We'll tell you about a recent study coming up next. And later, these Tennessee cattlemen are teaming up to maximize their profits. What's their system? Details in the country.
Drover's Report on Ag Day is brought to you by Long Range Apridomectin. If you're committed to peak performance, there's only one choice for your dewormer, Long Range Apridomectin. It's the first and only dewormer to offer up to 150 days of parasite control in one convenient dose.
Today you can learn more about an effort to increase market transparency in the cattle industry. USDA announcing it's hosting a listening session about the development of the Cattle Contracts Library Pilot Program. Now, that session is taking place this morning from 8 until 5:30 p.m. Central Time. It is taking place in person at the USDA National Grain Center in Kansas City and virtually. Now, the Agriculture Marketing Service says it's looking specifically for insights into what information should the library include, the format, and any concerns people have. For a link to the webinar, head over to drovers.com and look for this story. New research suggests plant-based meat isn't that big of a threat right now to the meat industry. The study, conducted by ag groups at The Ohio State University, the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and University of Kentucky. Now, it showed while sales and market share of new generation plant-based meat alternatives have grown, those gains haven't translated into a cut in people's spending on animal meat products. In fact, researchers say their analysis of national meat buys suggests plant-based meats are mostly an add-on to beef and pork, tending to serve as a substitute for chicken, turkey, and fish. Tennessee may be known for country music, the Smoky Mountains, and whiskey, but cattle are its top ag commodity. A closer look at farmer-to-farmer collaboration next in the country. Beef cattle farming remains Tennessee's top agricultural commodity, with more than 2 million animals on 45,000 farms. And as Charles Denny reports, one county in the state has worked for more than 2 decades to promote its beef producers.
A sight that's common around Pulaski, a field full of grazing beef cattle. Giles County covers a lot of ground near the Alabama border, 1,200 farms, and plenty of pasture land for one of the largest herds in the state.
We usually run about 115 to 120 mama cows.
But Dwight Watson doesn't want these animals to become permanent residents. The goal is to sell many of them. He's part of the Giles County Beef Alliance, a group that formed more than 20 years ago.
We were all on the same calving season, using the same type of vaccines, and we all got together and decided there had to be a better way to market our calves.
Giles producers started selling their cattle in load lots, meaning a common size used when hauling animals by truck, a group of uniform cattle whose total weight is about 50,000 pounds. Farmers say this cooperative effort helps the local beef industry as a whole.
Collectively, we felt like we were stronger as a marketing group together, and we were able to do that, and certainly over the years that's played out to be true. Extension has done a great job of tracking the differences between the animals that we sell.
The program here in Giles County led to the formation of the Tennessee Beef Alliance, now with 200 farmers in about 24 counties. It seems to have worked out well for all involved. More than 56,000 calves sold since 2006.
Kevin Rose with UT Extension in Giles County has consulted the Alliance since its early days and says hard work and careful planning led to good results.
Every calf that's gone through the sales been valued about $78 above what the Tennessee weekly market. So that's been a great profit for these producers that's been involved in the program for the last 20 years.
The Beef Alliance is still doing well here, and plans are to continue.
Yeah, I think not only can it be successful in the future, I think this is the future because the way marketing is going, feedlots and older buyers are wanting to invest in load lot cattle.
Future sales are coming up for Giles beef farmers. Past success gives an idea of what can work again. This is Charles Denny reporting.
All right, thanks, Charles, and that's all of our time this morning. Sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day out in Farm Country.